see if they'll let me do that. All right, and y'all can still see my slides, okay? Awesome. Well, welcome to Skills for Fab Life and this workshop we're calling I Got My W-2, Now What Do I Do? As a reminder, this session is being recorded. Oop, that was Kara's part. Sorry, Kara. Kara, do you want to say that part?
Sure, just as a reminder to everyone, the session's being recorded.
Awesome, thanks. I just covered up my slides. That's why I couldn't see that. So now I'm going to move it so that I don't interrupt someone else again, although that will probably happen. Okay, so what is Skills for Fab Life workshop? So these are workshops that we've been doing for about 2 years now. They cover a variety of topics, and they're intended to help young adults learn about key skills and concepts that are going to be helpful for life in high school and life after high school. We've done this workshop in the past. We've also done workshops on how to rent your first apartment, how to get your driver's license, how to make a healthy meal in a microwave, how to pick out a house plant for your apartment or your dorm room. So we've really done like a wide range of topics. And if there are topics that you'd like us to present on, we'd be happy to do that. As a disclaimer, we are not tax professionals, although Race might be, but the majority of us on this call tonight are not tax professionals. And what we're really trying to do is just provide some information that will help young people become tax-paying citizens, be informed citizens, and understand what they're supposed to do with all these documents that they get as a result of being an employee. So I'm super excited to be here with my colleague, Kara, and with my dear friend, Dominique, who I'm going to let introduce himself, and also his colleague, Race, to talk through the work they do, and also the special organization that Dom runs when he's not helping adults, he's also working with young people. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and then we'll talk through our goals.
Hey all, thank you so much, Rebecca, Kara. Thank you for having me tonight, having Race. So Race and I are executives at Common Ground Management. So Common Ground Management, we consult, companies as large as multi-billion-dollar companies and startups, people that are just starting their business, especially young adults, even some people that haven't turned 18 yet. So this is great for us to be here tonight. Race is one of my close friends. We talk a lot about life, talk a lot about how to educate the next generation in business. And we used to spend our Saturdays in this program called Boys to Men, 4 hours, 5 hours a Saturday, mentoring young men and women on this. So this is definitely in our wheelhouse and something we love to do. So Race, man, take it away. Any introductions for yourself?
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Obviously, this is one of my favorite topics in the world to talk about and discuss, which is taxes. As bad as that might sound, I'm really excited. Going to try to bring the thunder tonight. So please bring your questions. We're gonna have a good time talking about a very important citizen duty that we all have to do, and pay taxes.
Awesome. And since it's a small group, you're welcome to come off of mute here and just ask questions as we go along. You can put them in the chat. We've got 4 goals tonight. We want to introduce you to the concept of taxes, help you understand how to read your W-2 form, and introduce you to the form that goes with that W-2 called the 1040. That's a tax form that gets submitted to the IRS, the Internal Revenue Services. And then we're going to introduce you to free tax resources here in Philadelphia. And before I turn it over to Dom and Race, I just want to talk through a couple of terms that you will hear us use tonight. So this will become clearer once we go through some of the slides, but I just want to introduce these so that they sound familiar. So an 8814 is a tax form that people use if they're going to claim a dependent. So an adult claims a child or children on their taxes. Gross income is the total amount of income that has been earned in a paycheck. You might hear gross income for the year. Your net income is how much you've taken after taxes were taken out. So you calculated at the beginning of the summer, I'm gonna make $100 a week. And then you got your first paycheck and it was $86. And you're like, man, what happened? Your gross income was the $100. Your net income was the 80 something dollars. Taxable income is the amount of money that the government could put a tax on or take out of their paycheck. That's usually based on the gross income. YTD, year to date, so a full calendar year. And then deductions is how much was taken out. So I'm going to turn it over to Dom and Race, and I'm going to try to manage the slides a little bit. But you could also feel free to go forward, slow down. And as a heads up, right after this is the taxes 101. So what are taxes?
Yeah, thanks so much. So yeah, we'll do a little back and forth collab, but I guess the biggest thing is, as a young person, just understanding that taxes from our household, they're like, hey, you know, Uncle Sam coming to take money out of our pockets, our bar humbug. But there's so much deeper than that, and so many more things that happen in the tax realm that you're not seeing, and you actually have more control over taxes than what you've been educated on. So we'll talk a little bit about that tonight, and definitely willing to hear the questions. So hey, Race, you want to take this slide?
Sure. Taxes 101. What are taxes? So the government, in order to fund its operation, to run our country, to pave the roads, to have an army to protect the borders, to legislate laws, they have to get that money from somewhere. So they have typically two ways to generate money. And one of them is not so good. It causes like all kinds of problems and inflation. They can literally print money. And then the other way, they can tax the citizens. They can tax citizens to get money into the coffers so that they can pay the bill. Taxes have a positive and a negative reinforcement effect. Sometimes, in order to promote certain behaviors, you want to give tax breaks. For example, if you don't want to people to do certain things, you ever hear of the soda tax, or just a tax on cigarettes? That's to discourage people from doing certain behaviors or for not doing certain behaviors. There's a tax credit for electric cars. They're trying to incentivize and get people to do electric cars or buy electric cars. So that would be an incentive. So what are taxes? Taxes are ways that the government can fund its operation. Why are they taken out? They're taken out in order to, again, fund the operation. And also taxes are charged to encourage certain behaviors or discourage others. And are they always taken out? The answer to that question is yes. Given taxes, there are certain strategies that we can deploy that might be for another call. But yes, generally speaking, they are always taken out. So it should be in the forefront of your mind that you have a life partner with you, Uncle Sam, who will be charging taxes and deducting taxes from your W-2.
So this is a earnings statement, right, from your paycheck.
All right. So just as Rebecca said in opening remarks, we have a couple things to point out here. Just want to drive your eyes right to the far left-hand side where you see gross earnings. So gross earnings, this 580, so you worked 40 hours, your pay rate was $14.50. That means you made in this pay period $580. But this is all gross, right? Gross means before any deductions are taken out, before any taxes or any deductions were taken out. Now, when we look to the right-hand side, you'll see the deductions. So you have FICA, you have the federal and the state income tax. And usually you're gonna also have local income taxes. So there's a lot. So you're gonna pay usually 3 jurisdictions. You're gonna pay a federal income tax. You're also going to pay the FICA, which is how we fund Social Security, right? And then you have to pay your state and then your local taxes, right? So those are the three things you want to always look for. Now, after all those deductions, you can look at that bottom bar. So a couple of things. So YTD is year to date. So this is the year to date. This is how much money you grossed or earned from this company, right? Then you have your year to date deductions. This is all of the money that you paid towards taxes. And that's broken down, obviously, federal, state, and local. And then you have year to date net pay. So year to date net pay is going to be your gross minus your deductions. And that's how you get your net. All right. You always want to just check your pay stub, make sure everything is being calculated right, and making sure that the proper deductions are getting taken out. But this is your W-2, very important document that you want to get well acquainted with and as you sort of go throughout your work career. All right.
I have a question. So year-to-date gross and year-to-date net pay, is that the money you make? And then the deductions is how much they take out, and then the net pay is how much you actually get?
That is precisely it. You nailed it.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah, so if you want to think about it, if you look at the date here, pay period, the 1st of here to the 15th, right? So that's the money that they're talking about on this $580. And then you got paid the next, week on the 22nd. So you actually got that payment. So basically what this pay stub is saying, you get made $580 these last 2 weeks, but maybe you've been working there for, 2 months. So in the 2 months you've been working here, you made $2,900. You've taken out $607 over that 2 months, but this particular 2-week pay period, you made $580 and we took out $121. So you'll see them broken out year to date versus this particular sample size of work period, which is these 2 weeks. Usually people get paid on 2-week increments. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. And Kiara, when you come back to the office, I think this week is a pay period, so we can also show you your pay stub. So all of this information, this you get every time you get a paycheck from us. The top half is this, the bottom half is the check or the reverse. All that information gets compiled or added and then shared back with you in this W-2. And so I don't think I can make this any bigger, but I'm going to turn it back over to Race to talk through. And if you have your W-2 with you, Kiara, this might be helpful to look at it alongside while Race is talking.
Clear. All right. So every pay period, you're going to get you're going to get a pay stub, and that pay stub is going to have your gross, all the deductions sort of itemized out with your net pay, so you can see all the tax jurisdictions that you're paying into. At the end of the year, all that gets summed up and given to you in the form of this W-2 here. And so this is a little blurry, but in that big box right there, in box number 1, this is going to be the sum total of all your gross taxable wages. So this is everything added up together, right? Now, if you look to the right, we don't have this one highlighted, but this would be boxes. That's Social Security. Okay, Social Security wages and Medicare wages. Typically, this is usually how this works. With the Social Security, you only pay Social Security tax. You don't pay that on all of your income. So it's only just a portion of your income that you're getting taxed on with Social Security and the Medicare. Then if you look to the right-hand side, a little blurry, but you'll see in boxes 3, in boxes 1, 2, 3, in boxes 5, you'll see the sum total of all of the wages or all of the taxes that you pay federal and for Social Security for that particular tax year. All right. Now, at the bottom, talking about box 16, this is going to be the sum total of all your wages that are taxable at the state level. And then if you come over, I think it's going to be box 17. That's going to be the sum total of all your state taxes. All right. In Pennsylvania, not every state is like this, but Pennsylvania is easy to calculate because it's a flat state tax. It's 3.5%. So every $100 you make, $3.50 is going right to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, right? And then if you look right over from box 17, 18, 19, this is going to be where you're local. So this is going to be where Philadelphia takes their money out, and we have to pay the city of Philadelphia as well. So this W-2 captures everything, and it's just a summary of all the taxes and earnings that you had over the year.
Kiara, have you looked at your W-2 yet? Did you get yours?
Yes. I briefly saw it, and it kind of made me think back to when I worked as a play captain and I got my first paycheck. There was like so much money And then I remember like after that, it got like gradually smaller, but I remember looking at the year to date and the number got bigger. So
Do you understand why it got maybe smaller and then bigger? Like why the year to date got bigger?
yeah, the more I worked, the more money like I made in total, and then the more deductions like were made. So
Great. Okay.
Very
So
good.
then here's the big question. Do you have to
Do
file
you have
taxes?
to file taxes? Yes. So this is here's the threshold right here. So as that's beautifully pointed out, just jumping right to bullet point 2, not one to delay. If you earn less than 12,000 and an adult claims you on their taxes, you likely do not have to file. Why is that? So this is this thing called the standard deduction, right? So the standard deduction is $12,000. So basically what the government is saying, the standard deduction, this is basically a one, no questions asked deduction that you can just take right off your taxes. So if you make less than that, you know, they're like, you know, you don't have to file generally. All right. And then the other key point there is that someone else has to claim, someone that you have to be dependent on somebody else's tax return. All right. So very, very important for you to have that number in mind so that you can understand when you're liable for taxes. All right.
And the only way to really know for sure if you are going to get taxes back or if you owe taxes is to file your taxes. Although this is a good threshold, as Ray said, you could probably guess around using this information, but better to get in the habit and the practice of applying for taxes, because you could do it for free or for a very low cost, which Kara will talk about in a minute. But I want to go through. You get your W-2, then you get this form called the 1040, which Kara put in the chat. So Kara, you can grab that link and open it up on your phone or computer at a later date, but we're going to go through section by section.
All right. So this is the top of the 1040. This is the top of the 1040 right here. The first thing you want to do is highlight or check in your filing status. All right. Single, married filing separately, head of household. These are, most of you guys are going to file single. And then the next thing we're going to do is put in your personal information, your name, your social security number there to the right. Also your address, very important, your address, to put that in there. And this is sort of like the first H1 bar of the 1040. So this is just some standard information that you want to put in. Now, this is really important. It says the standard deduction, someone can claim you as a dependent. If that is yes, if you show up, if your parents are claiming you as a dependent, you want to check that box right there. All right. Check that box right there. Very important. Boom. That sort of sets everything sort of off and in motion for you.
And that's where you as a young person need to ask a parent or a guardian, hey, grandma, hey, uncle, hey, mom, hey, dad, are you claiming me as a dependent this year? Because I need to give you then this 1040 in my tax form so you can take it and submit it with your tax forms. Is that what you would recommend, Grace?
Yes, great point. Just really having that conversation with your guardian and making sure to see if you're showing up, because it changes some of the things that we can put on this document. You know, depending on if you're independent or if or no one can claim you as or somebody can claim you as a dependent. All right. So right here, this is sort of the income section here, right here in box 1A. This is going to be, go back to that W-2, and they want you to put in 1A the figure exactly as it's shown on the W-2 in box 1. So that's what you're just taking that and pasting it right there. You're typing it right in there, but that is where that number comes from. All right. Now, there's some other things that I don't think we're talking about on this particular call, but you add up all of your earnings. Some earnings are, might be from businesses or things like that. But once you add up all those earnings, you'll see right there in this 1Z, that's gonna just all sum up, and you have your final number there from your W-2. All right, so then this is, you got pension, social security benefits, if all kinds of types of earnings, but I think we're hyper-focused on the W-2 today. But then what's going to happen is that's all going to flow down, and you're going to add up all your income from everywhere into box number 9. All right. Then there is the most important number on your tax return, which is your AGI, which is your adjusted gross income. And so if you ever want to do mortgages or get loans, this is the number that really reflects how much income you've earned, your adjusted gross income. And it's basically a catch-all number of all of your income sources. All right. Now, that number becomes box number 15, which is your taxable income. So this is the number that's going to be subject to tax. Very important. All right, so your AGI, then remember we said the standard deduction right there on box 12. So here's an important pro tip. So if somebody else can claim you as a dependent, you can't take this $12,950. You can't just put that on there because you're a dependent on somebody else's tax return. The most you can write off is the greater of $1,050 or $400 plus your W-2 or your income, right? Not to exceed the 12,000. I know that was a lot, so let me give you an example. So let's say you made $9,000. So if you made $9,000, your deduction, your standard deduction is going to be $9,000 plus $400. So it can be only $9,400. All right. That's going to be in box 9. So you don't want to just look at box 12 and say, oh yeah, I'm single, 12,950. Boom. No, it doesn't work like that. You can't ever exceed that 12, but you got to do that 400 plus what you made. Very important. That's probably the most intense calculation that you would have to do on the taxes if you are dependent of someone else. All right. If you are not a dependent on somebody else, then you got your standard deduction there of 12,000. And this is the one we all been waiting for. Am I going to get a refund? Hopefully we don't owe any money in box 37 because you're paying taxes every single paycheck. And hopefully all the math and all the proper deductions are made. So, you don't have to pay anything. You might even get a refund. But all that gets summed up. And here you can have your direct deposit, put in your direct deposit, your routing number, your account number there, and the government will usually within a few weeks of you filing this tax return, they'll direct deposit you.
That's why on April 15th, everybody has like between April 1st and April 30th. That's why all the furniture stores and the car dealerships and the Amazon and Best Buy, everybody's having their tax day sale because they know folks just got a tax refund. So it's consumerism and capitalism always at play here. Kira,
100%.
before we move into where you can get your taxes done for free, do you have any other questions for Race or Dom about either the W-2 or the 1040 form and how they work together?
Well, I did have a question, but I forgot it. So with every paycheck that you make, because I know that I have direct deposit, but Kevin still gives me a paycheck and I keep them. So with every paycheck that I make, it'll tell me the taxes that were taken out. And if I were to like add that all together, that would be what I would be refunded, or like would that go in my W-2?
What a great question. So if you can, if you go back up just one, go back, I think 2 to, I don't think we had this one. All right, so it's not here. But what's going to happen is anything, let's go to the W-2. Let's do that. Let's go to the W-2 real quick. Great question. One more back. All right. So you see, so there are three taxes on here. So you got the FICA. So FICA stands for Federal Insurance Contributions Act, right? And so you have 2 of those. You got the FICA Medicare and the FICA Social Security. So those two taxes you can't write off. You do not write off those two taxes, right? The tax that you're seeing that's going to go on your tax return is the federal tax. Well, here we have that $87. Year to date, you paid $435, right? So what's going to happen is at the end of the year, you have this year to date or 2022 federal tax payment. What happens then is, depending on your income, you fall within this progressive tax bracket. So the first couple $1,000s get taxed at one rate, and then depending on where you end up at the end of the year, their government's going to say, you owe us X percentage of the taxes. If you paid more than the tax was assessed, that's how a refund gets given to you. Typically, you know, the math works out, and the payroll processing companies are going to only take the federal taxes that are due. So you might not get a refund. So I don't think it's weird or strange if like you paid exactly what you needed to pay. But if you did overpay for whatever reason, then yes, they will give you a refund check. All right. But the important thing is not to add in the FICA, not to add in the Social Security, because these are taxes that you pay, but they're not considered as part of your income tax that goes on your tax return. And that's a big mistake that a lot of younger people make when they're first starting out doing their taxes on their own. They look at the W-2, it's all federal tax. They Google FICA and it says federal, and they add that in. And then the government has to send you a nice letter to recoup that money. But yeah, it's only the federal tax bar for that. All right.
And
Great
Kiera,
question.
what you're getting each week, if you have direct deposit, is like a blank, like it says not for deposit or not for do not cash. But you should always check what's called your pay stub. This is the pay stub. What Race was just talking about, this document here, that's
Yep.
always attached to your paycheck, whether it's a direct deposit or not. So you should always check to make sure that something doesn't look off. Occasionally an error is made and more taxes are taken out or less taxes are taken out. And when I don't know if you remember this, but when you first started working at Fabuphilly, there was paperwork you had to complete, which was a W-4 form. So the W-4 form tells the government before you even start working how much money, if there are extra deductions, you want to have taken out at any given time. That is the first document. Then you get your pay stub. Then you get your W-2, which is a summary of all the taxes that have been taken out over the amount of time that you've been working. So there are these documents that all work together to tell the government how much should be taken out. And if they take out too much by mistake for whatever reason, then sometimes you get a refund. Usually, as Ray said, it's usually a wash, and it's just like, good to know you don't owe any money. Too bad you didn't get a refund, but that's also sometimes better.
Yeah, that's right.
Hi, Alicia, welcome. We're just a couple more slides, and Kara is going to walk us through where to get your taxes done in Philly.
Hello. So you may be familiar with free tax resources from businesses like H&R Block. Sometimes library branches have those resources as well. But the IRS, or Internal Revenue Services, which processes your taxes, also has free resources called VITA, or Volunteer Income Tax Assistance sites. So there are 8 sites around Philadelphia, but before accessing any of these resources, there are some steps you need to take to prepare for that. So there are a couple of different ways to file. Because of COVID, there are different options. So the first is completely virtual, where a volunteer will walk you through how to file either over the phone or through a video call. And so for this option, you'll prepare your taxes and submit them yourself. The second option is through a virtual drop-off. So this allows you to submit your taxes online yourself, and then you'll get a follow-up call from a volunteer who will review your submission with you and request an electronic signature. The site drop-offs are in-person submissions, where you prepare your taxes yourself and then submit them in person. And then you schedule a follow-up meeting with a volunteer to review and sign off on your submission. And then the last option is completely in person. So here you will schedule an appointment to meet with a volunteer who will help you prepare all of your tax documents, submit them, and sign off on it. And so that one's the most comprehensive option. And so to use these services, you must meet the following criteria. So you must be a US citizen, you must make $57,000 or less per year, and or have a disability and or speak limited English, and then you cannot own your own business or home as well. And so here's a list of necessary documents that will be used to prepare your taxes. So you'll need an ID, your social security card, and your W-2 form. You may or may not have these other documents. A 1099 form is for other income that you've made throughout the year that is outside of your job. If you pay for, you paid for that, your trades stating how much you paid them. And then a 1095A form is for health insurance that you've paid for out of your own pocket. So this isn't for anyone who's either on their caregiver's insurance plan or if you have insurance through a job. And so the QR code to the left is a link to the VITA site. So it lists all of the locations, and then it has a link to appointments as well so that you can schedule that online. And then if you have any other questions about the documents that you need to help prepare your taxes, you can read more about that with the QR code to the left. And then the other link to the right is a database of different tax resources around the city if you're interested in potentially exploring other options.
Thank you. Any questions about where you can get your taxes done for free, or what resources you'll need to take with you to schedule either a virtual or in-person appointment?
Hi, yes, I have a question. I was wondering for a teenager, excuse me, the documents that's needed, if they don't have an ID, is a school ID okay? Or, because there's no driver's license right now, or a state ID that my son has. So what other kind of ID could he take? Like maybe a school ID?
I'm not sure if they would take that. This is what was listed. I didn't see a school ID, but that, does anyone
How
else?
old is your son?
15.
Oh, so
Yeah, it might be worth it to call. I would probably call the site and see what they say. The other thing that might be really helpful for your team is for them to get one of the city IDs or the real IDs, which are, there are a couple of locations where you can get those for free. And we often link to that resource where a young person can get that city ID, and that will be very helpful for them for tax purposes, for jobs and so forth. But I would say if you have the opportunity, Ms. Alicia, if I said your name correctly, to scan this, and then that can give you some more concrete information about the right kind of ID.
Okay, so that's the VITA site schedule appointment.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And are you claiming your son?
I am.
All right, cool. So would you be eligible, meaning like the less than $57,000 a year?
For me, yes.
Yeah, so it would probably just be like, because he's a minor, you guys go together, and then his 1040 as a dependent would go with yours, and you would just bring like your ID and things like that, so that they would just file them together.
Okay. All right, thank you.
What other questions from Ms. Alicia or Kiara do we have? And what other tips or suggestions from our other panelists?
So this is like more of an opinionated question. So do you think it would be better if a teen was able to, or not able to, do you think it's better that a teen does their own taxes and get feedback based on that? Like instead of doing it virtual, be able to do it all in person to be able to like walk through the process and know what they're doing?
Yeah, I think that's the great thing about VITA, is go in there, you can meet with somebody in person. Usually, I know one of the locations that's pretty popular is my alma mater, racist too, St. Joseph's University. So they have like a VITA program where you're actually there with an accounting professional, like an accounting professor, and then also like a student that's studying accounting. So they're working together on your 1040, and they're doing it right in front of you. And you can ask questions and kind of learn the process. Some people, so there's a difference between like a tax professional and an accountant. So some people kind of just study to do taxes, and you might see them at like a Jackson Hewitt or H&R Block. So it's a little bit different in those scenarios, because Race can correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, but they're more like programmed to insert certain numbers, not necessarily answer questions, because a lot of them are just doing it like part-time. So yeah, if you can go to a VITA location and it is at a school like St. Joe's, you're really in a situation where these are people that do it full time. They study accounting all the time. And they can really walk you through like certain things that are going on, because tax laws change year over year. And so, it's very important to be in a place where somebody can answer those questions, as opposed to like they're just looking at it and like plugging in numbers because they studied it for a little bit, and it's like a little part-time job for them. But yeah, Race.
As a general rule, Kiara, I would always seek advice from professionals whenever possible. And then that doesn't mean you couldn't knock this out yourself. But yeah, as a general rule, you always want to get a session in with a professional if you can. And then make the decision from an informed place whether or not you feel comfortable just knocking it out yourself, or if you want to, go get professionally done. But yes, please go talk to someone about it.
Great question. What else? Are the other questions that we can answer for you tonight?
Also, so my sister followed me, and I know that as soon as like I found out all that stuff, that's when I got my W-2. And I asked her, like, well, what am I supposed to do with my W-2? Do I like keep it, throw it away? She was like, you could just save that for next year. Like you could always file next year. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah.
All right, you want to take that?
Well, I didn't get that. She said you can always do what next year?
She said,
File taxes.
yeah, like she said I could always file the W-2 that I got for like 2022 for like next year.
No. So you want to file that this year by April 15th, for sure. You want to be very very judicious with the dates. So you get this W-2 sometime in January. So you want to really start thinking about getting your taxes done before April 15th, but the sooner the better. So you do want to wait till next year to file.
You'll get a penalty.
Not correct. Yeah, that is not something that you want to entertain.
For clarification, Kiara, did you say that your sister was claiming you as a dependent? Is that what you meant? Did I understand that, or did I miss something?
She already claimed me, like she already went through the process and all that. And then that's when I got my W-2. I don't know if I got it in the mail or if Kevin just gave it to me, but like after she went through the whole process, that's when I had got it. And she doesn't do it, but her brother does. And she asked her brother, and her brother said that I could just hold on to it and then do the whole W-2 stuff next year.
Yeah, I think in order for your sibling for someone else to claim you on their taxes, they have to have your tax information, right? They have to have your W-2. So you would have to be part of that conversation in some way. But I think, Kiara, I would ask Race to correct me if I'm wrong, but you should visit one of these VITA services and get the information onto a 1040. And then if your sister or whoever wants to claim you wants to take it with them, the way Miss Alicia is going to take her teens documents, but I think you should get in the habit of filing your taxes every year, no matter what. That would be my suggestion. Race, what would you advise?
100%. Yes, I agree with that. Just get in the habit of filing your taxes. You seem to be a very, very sharp young lady who's going to work, and you're going to be accumulating W-2. So yeah, you want to start adding this to your annual repertoire of things to do.
Becomes your annual routine. You get your
That's right.
W-2 and you file it and you get it done, and you'll know whether you got overpaid taxes or whether you underpaid. And so then you could just be done with it. But it's an important duty as a citizen, and you don't want to get, I almost put up a couple pictures of famous people who didn't pay taxes and what happened to them when they didn't pay taxes. They will come take everything from you, and you don't want that to happen. Any other questions before we finish up? Race or Dom, do you have any wise words to leave our guests?
Well, I guess, Kiera had great questions. Miss Alicia had great questions too. So the big thing is just always remember your 1040 is a report that you're telling the IRS how your year went, because they have no idea other than, what the W-2 says. So you might have multiple W-2s. You might have also made some money babysitting, right? So that 1040 is almost like a trust system that the IRS has, like, hey, let us know how your year went, what you got going on. Did you get married? Did you do this? Did you do that? So I say that to say that you're always in control, and the IRS is depending upon you to communicate to them how you would like to be taxed and what happened. And, that's how they determine whether you owe more money or they owe you money on a refund. So that's the thing, like the 1040 is like your sum of your year. And some of that stuff is going to come from your W-2 if you have multiple jobs, and you have multiple W-2s if you're an employee for multiple places. So just remember that it's your duty, but you're also in control of that communication process, and the IRS is trusting you to do that.
I have one more question.
Sure.
So I guess it's kind of be for like Rebecca as well. So I also started working last year. That was my first time working with Fab Youth as a play captain. But last year we also did, I also started as the Little Library steward and like the Fab Youth. So are those both popping up with my W-2 or just the play captain?
Good question. All of the money that you earned from Fab Youth Philly between July 3rd and December 31st, when you worked at Fab Youth Philly, will be on this year's on the W-2 you just got. So that includes all the work you did in November, the work you did for advisory board in December. All of the income that we have paid you since you have worked for us starting in July will all be on a W-2 from us. If you also work somewhere else, you'll get a W-2 from another company because you worked with them from January to July, for example, before you worked at Fab Youth Philly. But everything you've done with us since we met you is on a single W-2 for 2022. Race, do you have any parting words or advice before we sign off?
No, just thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with everyone, and hopefully we added some value. But thank you, so appreciative for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for both of you, and for Kara for pulling up some really helpful resources. We'll share some of these follow-up resources on our social media. So if you're not already following us at Fab Youth Philly, please make sure you follow us. We have other workshops coming up. In fact, Kiara is going to be one of our presenters at one of our upcoming Skills for Fab Life workshops. So keep an eye out for Kiara. And if there are particular topics you or a young person are interested in having us discuss, we do these workshops twice a month, in person and virtually. We're sort of mixing it up depending on the topic and the presenters. And I want to say thank you to Dom and Race and to Kara for helping me pull this together. And thank you to Miss Alicia and Kiara for joining tonight. Gonna stop recording for now and